and welcome to episode 87 of Stitched in Sweden. I'm Maria and you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Stitched in Sweden. I'm coming to you this week from a spring day in Stockholm, and I thought I would come and talk to you about what I've been making in the last couple of weeks. I know that I recently uploaded an episode, but it was one that took me a long time to edit, so it was actually recorded about a month ago. So seems like I'm recording again really soon, but it's been a while. So we are now in about our 6th week, I think, of staying home, and yeah, it is what it is. We are getting used to it. Thomas is in the room behind that wall, and Eloise is sleeping in our bed. So I have the monitor here, expecting her to wake up maybe 1 or 2 times during this recording, but she's starting to nap in the bed, which is a nice break for me during the day. So let's just jump right in. I am wearing my Finnish Nurtured sweater. This is a pattern by Andrea Mowry, and I knit this out of Stress Knits yarn in the Merino DK base. I have 1 skein left over. I knit it in exactly 4 skeins, like exactly 4. This is all that I have left from my 4 skeins, which I saved just in case I actually needed to bind off the neckband a little bit looser, but actually it's good. So yes, this is birch. It was lovely to knit with. I originally had cast on the Stockholm sweater by Petite Knit in this yarn, and I showed it last time. I'm really glad that I decided to rip it out because it wasn't working for me. I just didn't feel like it was going to be a sweater that I was going to wear. Too much positive ease for my taste, and I think that it would be better suited in the 2 strands of mohair that it calls for to make more of a light, flowy sweater that, yeah, rather than a bulkier DK. This sweater, though, is perfect for, this yarn is perfect for this kind of sweater, I think. Even though it's a DK weight yarn, it's not too hot because of the, what's this called, kind of honeycomb pattern. You are slipping a lot of the stitches, so, and I knit this at a much looser gauge than I normally knit if I'm knitting in stockinette, so the fabric itself is quite a bit looser, yeah, than just straight stockinette for me, and I really like the feeling of it. I think I nailed the perfect amount of positive ease for me, or ease in general. I think there's 0 ease at the bust, and then just a bit of positive ease at the waist, and pretty much none at the hip, which is how I like it. I alternated skeins except up at the very top, which I think you can tell is slightly lighter, slightly less speckles, but it's really fine for me. I don't notice it that much, and I don't feel like there's a harsh line, but that's just how it worked out for using up my last ball of yarn rather than breaking into my 5th skein. So yeah, I'm okay with that. This was knit from the bottom up. I knit the sleeves first and attached at the raglan, and then the decreases are done here. This is one of the few occasions that I don't use a tubular cast on, because even though that's my preferred cast on, I don't like doing the tubular cast on for 2x2 rib because you have to readjust the stitches after you do it, and I just don't like doing that. So I like the tubular cast on for 1x1, but I think that it looks fine for a 2x2 rib just to do a long tail cast on, which is what I did here. I really like how the texture of this pattern adds another kind of dimension to the speckled yarn, and I like it a lot better than I did knit in stockinette stitch. So yeah, I'm really happy with the sweater. I finished this earlier in the week and I blocked it, and today's the first day wearing it, and I can already tell that it's going to be one that I really do wear often. So that is a major win. In terms of what else I've been knitting, I cast on the Whitmore sweater as soon as I was finished with this one. The Whitmore sweater is a pattern by Amy of Tailoress or Little Tailoress Studios. Tailoress Studios? I can't remember what her new name is. Here it is. I just started the yoke part and I am enjoying this a lot. I did do the tubular cast on for this one, and that's because it's a 1x1 rib. It has this nice lace pattern. I'm actually knitting this in a cotton merino blend, which is not something that I ever use. This is Sandnes Garn Duo, and it is 55% merino, 45% cotton. This color is color 1015, and it's a DK weight yarn. I'm really enjoying this. I did not think that I would. The yarn itself is, the ply structure is a bit interesting. So there's maybe, I don't know, 6 plies or so. Let's see. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 plies, and each of the little plies is a 2-ply. It has a tiny bit of give to it. So in the past, what I've not liked about cotton yarn is that it feels really stiff on my hands. It's hard to work with. It makes my hands cramp, and that the yarn itself felt really dry. So think like when you're knitting dishcloths and stuff. I really didn't like that feeling, which is why I've shied away from cotton yarn and mostly just stick to wool. But one of my friends had used this yarn and she recommended it, so I thought, you know, this would be, I think, a good pattern because of the lace part of the yoke. This could be a really nice sort of summer, spring sweater, lighter weight, something that you can throw over, you know, a t-shirt in the evening when we're sitting out on our balcony, not going anywhere. But you know what I mean. I think that this could just be really nice in a cotton mix, because the original pattern is knit in a fingering weight held with a mohair, and then there's also a DK weight silk mohair, silk merino maybe, or maybe just, I think it's probably a silk merino blend. And even though I really like the look of mohair sweaters, I find that I don't wear mine as often as I would like to because they're really just too warm. And I have had a lot of hormones that have been keeping me extra warm this year. Oh, it's not here anymore. It must be on my other chair. It was, my No Frills is around here somewhere, which I do wear that one sort of regularly, but it is, I have been warm, and the mohair just adds a bit too much warmth for me lately. That might change again, probably will, and I'll go back to being cold all the time. But right now, when I have a baby on me a lot of the day, the mohair was just a bit too hot. So I really thought that it was a great suggestion of my friend to try this in a cotton yarn. And yeah, I really am just so happy with how this is turning out. So I ordered this yarn actually from a semi-local yarn store up in Uppsala, which is a town near Stockholm, called Ull och Tyll. and I could have, so I think it's important at this time to be supporting small businesses. I think yarn stores already struggle. Brick and mortar yarn stores already struggle a lot because of the competition with online shopping, so I decided to order from them, and yeah, it came really fast and I'm glad that I did. And they send along some free patterns as well. So I ordered 8 balls of the Send Us Yarn Duo. I've knit 1 and started my 2nd ball so far. The other thing that I got from them is this pattern booklet, which I ordered. This is Trend 2002. I think that's just the number. It came out now, not in 2002. And I just like the look of some of the patterns in here. A lot of them are mohair, but I thought that there might be some that I knit in the future or might use some of the stitch pattern from. So here's one, and it's just a really nice booklet anyway. It has kind of a, it's not really bobbles, but it's sort of a popcorn stitch, I would say. There's a pretty basic cardigan pattern. This is the one that I am definitely considering knitting. I think this is in mohair held double. 2 strands of mohair. Cabled sweater. So I really like that one. And I also like this one. I would knit that with less positive ease, I think. Oh yeah, and I also like this one. It's a bit blowing out, but this is kind of, it looks like some sort of fisherman rib or some kind of rib cardigan. So a couple of them spoke to me in this pattern booklet, so I thought I would order it and have a look. Maybe you can see this one better now on this picture. So that's what I ordered from Il Hotel. And yeah, that is what I've been knitting. In terms of sewing, I have 2 projects that I finished and 2 that I'm working on at the moment. I finished these little shorties, which is a pattern from Lowland Kids, and the fabric here is from Stuff and Steel. There's a little faux drawstring. These came together super quick. Yeah, I sewed the majority of them on my overlocker. See the overlocked seams there, and then this top stitching here I did with the twin needle, which is my preferred finishing, and there's a bit of elastic in here. So I think these will be really nice for summer for Eloise. And then I also made her 2 onesies and a pair of leggings that were in some Easter fabric that I showed last time. And she's actually wearing the sage green onesie that's similar to this one and the little leggings right now. So I took some video of her this morning that's playing right now, I guess. But I also made this one. Is a short sleeve version. Originally this was long sleeve, and Eloise wore this on Easter, but it was comfortable enough for her to wear, but it was not comfortable for her to get her arms in it. And the sleeves were too tight and the cuffs were too tight. So she wore it once as a long-sleeved onesie, and then I chopped the sleeves off and made it a short sleeve version. So this pattern is based on several different patterns. I couldn't find one like this. This is what I wanted. I wanted a long sleeved and short sleeve, but mostly I wanted a long sleeved onesie with little shoulder ruffles that have the snap here at the shoulder, and I didn't find one. So this is sort of, yeah, I overlaid some of my pattern pieces that I have from several different patterns and came up with this. I did use the idea of the reinforced snap part with this little extra bit of fabric, which I first saw in the Lowland Kids snap suit, baby snap suit, maybe it's called, which I really like because otherwise I sort of feel like I'm pulling too hard on the fabric. Yeah, and I used the ruffles from the ruffle peplum tank from Lowland Kids. But yeah, I really like this. It turned out cute and I really like it on her, so win, win, win. The last project that I'm sewing for Eloise is a pattern from Stuff and Steel. I am making this sleeping bag kind of thing. This particular one says 0 to 3 months, but I've laid it out on her. I laid the pattern pieces on her, and I think that it will still work for a little while. I had this fabric that I didn't really know. It's been in my stash for a long time, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it because it wasn't exactly what I expected when I ordered it, which happens sometimes when you order stuff online. I thought it would have a little bit more stretch to it. It's a French terry, I think I would call it, or a loop back fabric, but it's not super, it's like, yeah, I don't know. I have one modal loop back fabric which is super soft and stretchy, and this just doesn't have the same amount of stretch. So yeah, it didn't serve my original purpose that I bought it for, and it's been sitting in my stash for a while. So I thought, this is perfect for this kind of sleeping bag for Eloise. So I'm planning on making one for the summer in a double gauze fabric, which I also have, but I'll show you that when I make it. But right now we're still keeping our bedroom pretty cold, and I sometimes realize in the middle of the night when I feed her that she feels a bit cold. So I decided to use this fabric, and I actually am using it double. So the loop back side will actually be completely concealed. So it's going to have just the knit fabric on both sides. So this is one of the front pieces of this suit, and I've marked with a pen here where the snaps are gonna go, and that's it. One of the changes that I'm making is that I'm gonna use plastic snaps instead of Velcro, which is what's called for in the pattern, but I really don't love Velcro. So that is what I'm making with that. So I think that even though this is for a 0 to 3 month size, it's not going to be that much longer that it's cooler here in the evenings. So I think this will be, it will serve its purpose, be warm for the amount of time that it's going to fit her, and then I will adjust the pattern a little bit bigger with the double gauze that I'll make the next size, even though there's not a next size. I'll improvise the next size in that fabric. I'm going to sew the seams on using my overlocker, and then I'll bind the armholes and the neck, just this part of the neckband, with this jersey binding. And because I decided to double the fabric, instead of just cutting out each of these front pieces just flat, I cut them out on the fold, and I used the folded edge here to be the edge where it's going to be the flap. So, and then also to make this edge that the snaps are also going to sit on, to make it a little bit more firm, I put in some hem tape. I think it's called hem tape. Anyway, it's kind of like a gauzy interfacing sort of thing that just comes in a long strip. So I ironed that in there, and it just kind of makes it a nice firm edge as well. So I think that's going to be great. I also remembered that this, I always want to say this, I think I've said it maybe once a long time ago, but this is the best pen for sewing. This kind of pen is, I really like these pens for writing in general. They are erasable, not like the old kind of erasable pens that I remember from like my childhood that always kind of left a shadow there. These erase by friction. So you just rub it with this kind of eraser thing and it works really well. They also erase from heat. So you can draw on fabric with these and you just touch it with your iron and then it disappears. So for lighter fabrics, lighter colors, I really love using this pen because sometimes my, I don't know, I find like chalk pencil things to be a bit messy, and sometimes I want a really precise point. It's really great for quilting because you can, you know, get a nice sharp line with these. Yeah, it doesn't work so well when you have a darker color fabric because it's a dark color, but and then in that case a lighter colored chalk, like a white chalk, or I have a pink chalk pen, works really well. But top tip for yeah, marking on fabric is to use that kind of pen. So I might try to sew this up today. Well, we will see. Right now she's sleeping wrapped in a swaddle, but I think pretty soon we will have to transition out of that because she is about to be able to roll over, and then you're not supposed to have her in the swaddle. So then I would like to have that suit ready. All right, the last thing that I have been sewing is the Carolyn pajamas. This is a pattern from Closet Case. It's my instruction booklet. I'm doing view C, a slightly modified version. I cut these out, I think, a year ago. You might remember I made some pineapple pajamas. There's a picture on my Instagram. And I made those in a viscose rayon fabric to be kind of my wearable muslin before I cut into my rifle paper coat fabric, because this is a very yeah, treasured fabric of mine, and I wanted to make sure that it fit really well. So I got the pineapple fabric from Stuff and Steel. It was a remnant, so it was 40% off an already reduced price. So it was very inexpensive to buy that fabric, so it was perfect for a kind of wearable muslin. I made those, they fit well, so I cut out these, and then they have sat cut out for more than a year. I don't know why I do this sometimes, but I just do. I think in this case, so let me back up. Sometimes I work on a project until it's about 90% complete, and then I stop and I put it aside. And I think part of the reason I do that is that I have something in my head that's telling me that the project's not going to work out exactly as I had hoped. So rather than finishing it and finding out that it didn't work out, I just don't finish it. So then I never know if it worked out or didn't. I don't really consider myself a perfectionist, but I think that that is basically perfectionism coming out in a weird way. Yeah, so anyway, I just decided, was going through one of the drawers that has some projects that are partially finished in it, and this was one of them, and I thought, you know what, it's spring, these are beautiful pajamas, they're going to be beautiful pajamas. I love this fabric. It would be such a shame to have cut this fabric up in pajamas, have it all ready to go, and never use it. So I finally sewed them. Now these look a bit large for me because they don't have the elastic waistband in yet, which is the last part that I need to do for the shorts. So the reason why I think I set these aside and didn't sew them up, let's see, is because I always do this to myself. I underbuy fabric, and then it's a major game of Tetris to try to get the pieces to work. So I didn't buy this fabric with the intention of making the pajamas. I just bought 2 meters of this fabric with the plan to make something with it in the future. So the version C of this pattern calls for, in my size, with a 45-inch width fabric, it calls for 3.5 meters, and I only had 2 meters. So you can think that maybe that sounds impossible, but I remember lying out the fabric and really lying out all the pieces, trying to get it just right so that I could squeeze this out. So I was able to do it. The things that I changed are that I omitted the pockets, which personally, you know, a lot of people really love pockets and everything. I'm not someone who loves pockets and everything. I don't love pockets in dresses. I think it adds extra bulk and it makes dresses hang funny when you put stuff in the pockets. I also don't really need pockets in my pajamas. So if you like pockets, that's fine, but I didn't feel like I needed pockets, so I took them out, and that saved me some fabric. The other thing that I changed is that for the top part, which is not totally finished yet, but it's getting there, the collar, here I have the collar, the top collar is in the Rifle Paper Co., but the bottom collar is in a navy viscose fabric. So that will be folded over anyway. And then I'll kind of put this on even though the side seams aren't sewn yet, so it's gonna be a little bit funny. And I haven't pressed the collar, so it's also a little funny. So I didn't have enough fabric to make the facings here. These are the facings for where the buttons are gonna go. So it's gonna be like that from the outside. But I didn't have enough fabric for this long facing piece. So I just did the top part, which is the part that's going to fold out when you have it buttoned. And I did the rest of the facing in that same navy viscose fabric. The other thing is that I didn't do the cuffs for the sleeves because I didn't have enough fabric for that, and I omitted the breast pocket. So by doing those changes, I was able to get it out of 2.5 meters. I wouldn't do that again. I wouldn't advise it. There are some seams where, like you can see here, this is cut with the part of the, what's it called, the selvage is there, but it's gonna be in the seam allowance, so it doesn't really matter. But there was some very creative cutting. Everything is still on the grain line, which is good. But there's a couple parts where there's a little chunk missing out of the seam allowance. Yeah. Which, yeah, it's gonna work out. But I think a combination of all those things and knowing that I had cut it out in this very, like, oh, Tetris way, maybe this will work, maybe it won't, I think was one of the reasons why I set it aside for so long and just didn't sew it up. But that also meant that when I picked it up, because it had been so long, I kind of had to try to remember, like, what was I thinking? Did I need to make adjustments to this, or was it fine as is? So, yeah. I wouldn't recommend that, but it worked. So I just have a little bit more on this to do, and this will be a really nice set of spring and summer pajamas that are nursing friendly, so that is a bonus. I really like the piping that I did for these. This is Atelier Brunette piping in the blush color, and I've used this piping for several projects. If you remember, I made Carolyn pajamas for myself, my mom, and my sister for Christmas. The long sleeve, long pants version. I think I did, yeah, View B, which has all of the piped cuffs and piping along the collar and cuffs of the sleeves as well. And I use that piping as well. It comes in a lot of different colors, and it just works well for garment sewing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to having those finished. In the last couple of days, Eloise has been napping in a bed, which is really a game changer for me because it means that I have a bit of extra time to myself during the day, where I just also get a break from her before she was napping always in the carrier, as I'm sure you saw in the last couple episodes, which gets really heavy. So I'm feeling like I have a lot more energy, even though she's going through a bit of a phase now at night where she hasn't been sleeping quite as well. But it means like that I have more energy during the day, and I feel like I have more energy to commit to her when she's awake, because I haven't been using up all my energy carrying her around while she's asleep. So that is really nice, and it also means that I do get a little bit more crafting done during the day, which before was only happening at night after she went to bed. Theoretically, I could sew during the day because, yeah, I can use my sewing machines now, but I haven't done that yet. But yeah, I'm gonna finish up those pajamas. They're not going to sit around for another year. I'm gonna finish them this week. The very last project that I want to talk about is also one that I cut out around the same time that I cut out those pajamas, which was about a year ago. It was also right around when I found out that I was pregnant with Eloise. So my motivation and my energy at that time in the first trimester went way downhill. You have a giggler. I'll be back. My motivation and energy that I had for sewing went way downhill in the first trimester. So I had cut out this project and started it, but never, got around to finishing it. But it was really, really close to being finished. But it was another one that I thought, maybe this isn't going to turn out, so I kind of didn't, I just set it aside. And that is this pair of jeans for Thomas. I am making these, they're a stretch denim, really dark denim. I don't know if it's coming up. That's more like the actual color. I don't know if I ever talked about these on the podcast, but I cut up a pair of his old jeans that he really likes the fit of, but got a hole. I mean, he wears his jeans out completely. They had a hole in the crotch area. So I cut those jeans and kind of made pattern pieces from the old pair of jeans, and using the instructions from the Ginger jeans, which is a Closet Case Patterns that I've sewn up before. Using the general construction of those, I made these jeans. And they are literally 99% finished. 95. The zipper is installed, the fly's installed, everything is ready. The pockets are this blue and white stripe fabric. He requested this red for kind of maroon colored top stitching. All that needs to happen, at the point that I set them aside, all that needed to happen was that I needed to attach the waistband and have him try them on so that I could do all the top stitching to finalize the waistband and insert the button and do the bottom hem of the jeans. And that's the point that I stopped. So now I have sewn on the waistband and he tried them on and they look really good. And I think that they fit. I'm going to let out the calf side seam just a little bit because they're a bit tight there. But otherwise they fit really well and they just need to be finished up. So I was waiting a little bit to finish up some of these projects that I was sewing for Eloise because I have my white thread on my overlocker and I want to put black thread on to overlock the seams for his jeans. So once I finish my pajamas, these jeans are getting finished and I think they're going to be really nice. And that will be just another project that I have had in a drawer that will be finished, and that feels really good. So here's Miss Eloise. She has on her onesie here. This is the sage one that I made much bigger long sleeves for. And these are the little leggings. So this is a combination of two patterns from Brindle and Twig. I used the waistband. They might actually have this pattern as I made it, I'm not sure. But for me, I had two separate patterns that I used combined. I used the waistband of leggings number 22, which has cuffs, a waistband and leg cuffs, I think. And then I used the legs of leggings number 2, which just has you know, a folded over hem, and then I finished with my twin needle because I prefer that look for the leggings. And this is fabric from Tig Drömmar, and yeah, I really like these. I like this style leggings because the waistband, rather than having the elastic, which I think cuts in a little bit on her tummy, this is nice and like a softer waistband, and yeah, it's just my preference. So I will continue, I think, to make leggings like that. But you know, I made these little shorties with an elastic band too, so you know, it will be a bit mixed, I think. So that is all from me. I will talk to you again maybe in a couple weeks. I hope that you are well and that you are enjoying what you're making.